Any interesting stories about your experience at the World Bank?
Oh, well, yeah, there are a number. Probably the one which is most relevant to what we've been talking about.
Well, the reason I asked the question is in heterodox economics, which is non-traditional economics, you probably rose higher in the conventional power structure than any other heterodox economist, being a senior economist at the
Mm,
World Bank. So it was quite a dichotomy. So sorry, keep going.
yeah, yeah, I should say senior economist sounds pretty exalted, but in fact, it's a fairly low ranking within the World Bank, just to point out. But a story that I think is very instructive in the World Bank. As you probably know, the World Bank comes out with a World Development Report every year or sometimes 2 years. Back in 1992, a couple of years after I had just gone to the World Bank, they were going to do one on sustainable development, which at that time was the big new concept that had just come down from the UN and they had to deal with it. Um, I was not on the team which was going to write the report because I was too low in the hierarchy, but because I was environmentalist in the environment department, I was on the review panel to comment on successive drafts of the report. And I thought that was very important. Here's something really, the World Bank comes out and says, okay, first draft comes, I eagerly start reading it. In the first chapter, there's a diagram which is titled The Relation of the Economy to the Environment. And it consisted of a rectangle labeled economy and an arrow coming in from the left labeled inputs and an arrow exiting to the right labeled outputs, nothing else. That was the relationship of the economy to the environment. So I said, oh, okay. So I wrote a comment. I said, this is a really good beginning here. We've got a picture of the economy. It depends on inputs and it generates these outputs. But the caption says relation of economy to the environment. Where's the environment? These inputs are coming from nowhere. The outputs are going nowhere. So let's draw a big circle around the rectangle and label that environment. And then we'll see that the inputs are coming from the environment. We could talk then about depletion. The outputs are going back to the environment as waste. We could talk about pollution. We can talk about the capacity of the environment to regenerate the wastes so that some might be reusable again. We can talk about the balance between the two inputs and outputs in terms of the loss of thermodynamics and the size of the subsystem relative to the total system. How big can the subsystem be relative to the total system? We can talk about the entropic nature of this throughput of matter energy, et cetera, et cetera. We can really develop this picture and into something important. And so I sent that back in as my comment. Here comes the second draft of the thing. I look at the diagram again. There's the same diagram, but this time with a great big rectangle drawn around the original rectangle as basically a picture frame. You just took the same picture and put it in a frame. No labeling, no change in the text, no discussion of anything. So I said, well, okay. I said, this is really the same thing. I repeated the things I'd said before, tried to be more diplomatic, sent it back in. Here comes the third draft. The third draft, I look, no more diagram. Completely abandoned any attempt to draw a diagram of the relation of the economy to the environment. Now, that really, I said, well, that's something, isn't it? That's not hard to do. I mean, this is kindergarten, you got a large system and a smaller system inside it and a relation of dependence. Why won't they look at it that way? Why do they not want to do it? Well, I've realized slowly the reason is that picture threatens you with questions to which you cannot give a good answer within the context of the World Bank, because it immediately says if the economy is a subsystem of a larger system, the larger system is finite, non-growing, and materially closed, how big can the subsystem be relative to the total system before it disrupts it? Oh, limits to growth. Holy cow, we can't talk about that. Entropic relation to pollution, laws of thermodynamics. Hell, nobody understands that. Nobody's going to listen to that. We don't understand it either. It's going to limit growth. We understand that much. And we can't do that because the World Bank is in the business of growth. So better to abandon it.